All right, brown butter steaks. Look at this meat. Unbelievable, huh? You wouldn't think that you'd be able to do this on top of the stove, but I'm going to show you how, okay? And it's not only that. Remember this, with the brown butter method, okay, which is what we're doing, all right? Brown butter method here on YouTube, okay? The point is, the thicker the steak is, the longer you have to build the crust and maintain a medium rare. If you like a medium steak or a medium well steak, then you don't have to worry. You could even go with a thinner steak because you got plenty of time to get the crust. But if you want a nice rare like we want here, okay, and you want to get a fabulous crust, you need 3 inches. You know, these are like 4 inches thick. You see what I'm saying here? Even the filet. I mean, fillets cook so well in brown butter. This is how I started cooking the brown butter method, was with filet mignons. Okay, because they don't have that much fat protecting them on, inside on the outside. Whereas here, a lot of the fat that we're going to have in the pan is going to be the beef fat, which is great. And you can see this Porterhouse, which is ridiculous. Okay, look at that piece of fat right there. Amazing. So we're going to use grass-fed butter. This is a butter that I get a local raw dairy, which is what you should use for this. Grass-fed butter, you got no guilt. No guilt. Grass-fed butter is loaded with omega-3s. You need 30% fat in your diet. Okay, 30%. That's quite a bit of fat every single day. It better be good fat. The whole point is you can't have bad fat in abundance, but you can have good fat in abundance. That's good for you. Okay, it doesn't make you fat. Calories make you fat. Okay, so I have some kosher grind sea salt. Okay, I have some whole black peppercorns, which is the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get these things, all these steaks crusted in black peppercorns. The best way to do that, screw a pepper mill. Okay, it takes too long. You'll be here forever. We need a lot of pepper. So I'm going to put these peppercorns right into a mortar and pestle. Mortar and pestle. I'm going to break these up into, like, let's say 6 pieces. And some of it is going to get finely ground in here, which is fine also. So we're going to get an uneven pepper crust, which is exactly what we want. Some of that is going to be like pepper dust, which is going to soak into the meat a bit. And some of it is going to sit on top, and it's going to get crusted with the butter. And when you cook these peppercorns in whole grass-fed, unsalted butter, sweet butter, okay, the crust becomes this magical, magical pepper, salt, butter, and beef fat and beef crust. And that's what you're doing here. You're nurturing an amazing crust. Now, just to keep the peppercorns from going all over the floor, I'm going to pepper them in a pan. You could just use a plate also. And just put the peppercorns on the meat, on the pan, like this. So you can also press the steak into it. See, we can go like this now. And we can pick up and make sure that we get everything all over. Make sure we get some of the coarser ones on each side. Fine and coarse mixed together is going to make this magical crust, and that's what you're looking for. A great steak is a great crust. There's no way around that. That's what a lot of people don't understand, is that if you don't get a great crust on your steak, you don't have a great steak. It's as simple as that, and that's what the brown butter method gives you. It gives you a fantastic crust, control over the steak while it's in the pan, because you're constantly on top of it. It also gives you the ability to do it in a house, to be able to cook a steak in a house and not smoke the whole house up, because it's low temp searing. We keep going. And look at this monster. And I always do the pepper first, let the pepper sink in. And you could do this ahead of time, especially if you got a nice big steak like this. A steak this thick, you're going to want to pull it out of the refrigerator at least an hour before you cook it, if you want a nice rare. If you don't want a nice rare, you can pull it out at any time because you're going to get the heat in there. But I want that inside to be basically raw and the outside have a beautiful crust, and I want the graduation between well done, medium, and then rare. So we get multiple textures. That's another reason to have a nice thick steak, is you can get a great crust and you get multiple textures on the meat. I don't like an edge-to-edge rare on a steak. I don't understand why you would ever want that. I don't understand why you would sous vide a steak. Doesn't make any sense. You sous vide a braise or a roast beef. Totally different story. You have time still to get the crust on it because it's so big. You sous vide this and you're going to be missing that gradation, okay, which I like. I like having those different textures in my mouth of a slightly more well done, especially on a big steak like this. Brown butter, the ultimate flavor enhancer. Okay, I was correct. I had just enough peppercorns. So now salt, just like the pepper, is an integral part of this crust, but it's got to be the right texture. If it's too coarse, it's going to fall off the meat. If it's too fine, it's going to soak too much into the meat. You want it to both soak in a little bit and form the crust with the pepper. So you got this brown butter, pepper, and salt crust. Same story. I'm going to basically just push it in, just like this. Do it over a pan where whatever falls off, I can keep pushing. But you see, I'm pushing it in. And don't be afraid to put too much salt on a steak that's this thick. You need a lot. You need a crap load of salt. The whole inside is not salted. You're going to need to salt the inside. After you slice it, you're going to need to put coarse salt on top because the meat inside is going to have no salt whatsoever. And this is the best way to do it. Just get it in a pan and just press it in. This is like a rub. That's how you should think of it. Like it's a salt and pepper rub. You see how that's coated in salt? That's beautiful. Just packing it in. And some of it's falling off and some of it's staying on. And I'm going to keep doing it. Keep going around. There's some pepper coming off here too. Now it's incorporating itself with the pepper, the salt and the pepper together. The filet is not as thick. I can put a little less salt, but still needs a lot. Okay. Now we're going to put these on the side over here. We want to be gentle now. We don't want to shake them because they got a lot of salt on them. I'm just going to shake the salt off. Especially this freaking gigantic T-bone, man. We're gonna go literally really rare on this because the meat is so amazing. Now, I'm gonna give each steak its own plate. Again, making sure the crust is beautiful. I'm also gonna create some roasted garlic for this by leaving the garlic in the husk, okay? I'm gonna pull out the biggest pieces here and I'm gonna put them in with the brown butter while the steaks are cooking. And you could also peel it. And I'm also gonna show you how you can turn the butter into a sauce for the steak. This is gonna be ridiculous. Bam, so, what is this whole thing about pre-salting steaks? I don't understand it. Brining meat, I'll never understand it. I don't want to take moisture out of the meat. I want the moisture to stay in the meat. I want the moisture to drip down my fucking face while I'm eating the steak. I don't want to dry this out. Aging it is different. Okay, that's aging, it's developing flavor. Salt just takes out moisture and, in my opinion, overrides sweetness. Meat is very sweet. I don't want the whole fucking thing salted. I want to have some of it not salted. And I want that salted outer crust. So I want to eat some in the middle without the salt and then have a piece of crust and have that in my mouth together and design the bite. Well done being a little bit more dense and a little harder to chew mixed with the rare is miraculous, amazing. Why you want only rare meat in your mouth? Doesn't make any sense. My dogs. Imagine having it all. The tenderness, the tautness, the crust, the salt, the pepper, the no salt, the pepper, the sweet meat, all in the same bite. So how do we start? We start off with our grass-fed butter in the pan, cold butter. We bring the butter up till it starts to turn brown and we put the steak in. We do not need the pre-salt. The salt goes on when you're ready to roll. So we are ready to roll. Let's get the butter going. Cold butter, cold pan. How much butter? Well, start with a little bit. You can always add some more. But you need enough butter that all the meat is sitting in it. So you need it like at least, let's say, 1/8 of an inch on the bottom. Whoa, good catch. low heat until the butter's brown. Until the butter's brown. See? It's just starting to turn brown. Just starting to turn brown. As soon as they start to turn brown, make sure you got your steak ready. When I put the meat in, I gotta turn the heat up. And now I'm ready to go with my filet. But before I drop the filet in, I'm gonna turn the heat up on high just for a moment. Boom. See? And now I can lower it back down a little bit. And not touch it and just let the crust form. Don't play with it. There's no reason to play with it yet. Same thing here, I got this New York strip. Butter's nice and brown. See? Nice and brown, that's perfect. I can turn the heat up just a hair as I'm putting it in. Press it in. Make sure the pan catches back up. Now, you can pull the pan off if the pan's too hot. Slow it down like this. You can put it off to the side if the pan's too hot, but you gotta manage the butter. That's the key. Manage the butter. Do not let the butter get black in the case of a very thick steak. If you have a thinner steak, you can go a little hotter on the butter because it's only gonna be in the pan for a little while. Here, you're gonna be in the pan for, 15, 20 minutes at least. Bigger pan takes more time for the butter to melt, for the pan to get hot. Bigger steak, more time to cook. It all makes sense. I can already see that I'm a little too hot over here. I'm just gonna take this off the fire a little bit. Just like that, slow it down. Keep it off to the side. This one's doing very well. You don't wanna mess with the crust right now. You just wanna let it sear. And if you see that it's smoking too much, get the heat down. It's smoking too much. I went way too high. I wanna show you that. That's what you don't do, but it's easy to fix. You just pull it off the fire. Slow it down. If you see this much smoke, you're not doing it properly, okay? Now I can flip this, boom, and you're gonna see the crust is already starting to form. Because it's gonna be flipped multiple times. Time for the ribeye over here. Just like that, boom. You see that's perfect temp. See now the filet is at the perfect temp as well. You can see it's not smoking too much, it's just steaming. You see it's steaming? That's what you're looking for. I can put it back on the fire a little bit. Over here on this steak, I think I'm at a perfect temperature. Once again, it's not really smoking, you see? You're managing the heat. You see how the butter's brown but not black? And remember, this is such a big piece of meat right here that I can see that it could maybe use a little more heat, just a touch more heat. I'm gonna give it a little more. And if I see it start smoking, I'm gonna lower it. And now last but not least, in this monster middle one here, let's get this huge Porterhouse Florentine T-bone. Now, I don't usually use the brown butter method on a steak of this size. I use my black and blue method. I use the method that I did at the Miami house in the Miami Flow, which is on the YouTube, okay? But this works too. I wanted to show you that it does work. It just takes more work. It takes more time. And now we're at just a perfect rolling temperature on just about everything. This is gonna be hot. These two can use a hair more butter, which will also slow the pan down. Cold butter, if you put a lot of it into a pan, you're gonna slow the pan down. These two are looking pretty good. Maybe just a hair more butter. And they're perfect. And right here is where the basting begins, okay? Once you flip it, it's time to start getting it basted, which means you want to grab the fat and throw it back on top of the steak. Now what does that do? It creates an oven in the pan. It pushes the heat and the fat and the flavor and keeps the crust hot and forming even when it's not on the bottom of the pan. And These are going beautiful. These got so much time that I don't have to worry about them. These are a little bit smaller. They have a little bit less time. I have to pay more attention to them. Now you can see here, boom, look at that. Amazing, right? Start basting right over the top. Same thing with the filet mignon. Basting and cooking very slowly. And boom. And now it's time for the reveal on this one over here. See that? Oh my God. Just touch the crust and taste it, and you lose your shit. And you can see why it's going to be the best steak you ever had. I'm a little fast over here. So I'm going to light the back burner, which is a slower burner, and kill this heat. As you see, I'm smoking a little too much. Same thing here, I'm going a little too smoky, but it's actually time to flip this mother. This is a perfect way to cool the pan down now, is to flip the meat. Look at that. Whoa. You're basting and you're also flipping. Like, look at this beautiful crust. Okay, I'm going to render out some of the fat. Right there, boom, right on the brown butter. I'm going to flip this one again. Why not? Look at that, boom. Flip it over. Boom, why not? Keep flipping it. Use the heat of the pan to penetrate the meat and to slow the pan down and heat the pan up as you need. The meat itself, whatever hasn't been inside the fat, when you flip it, that is going to cool down the heat on the butter. And that's what you're doing, you're managing. You see how I'm a little too hot over here? Too much smoke? That's because this burner is running too hot. These smaller burners are running at the perfect temperature. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't lower it anymore. I got to keep taking it on and off the fire. Have to keep flipping and putting the fat down and the cold side down to cool the pan down. Okay, pull it off the fire, also cools it down right away. Stop smoking almost immediately. Then go back up on the fire again. The butter tells you everything you need to know. If the butter's smoking too much on these thick cuts, you're too hot. And you pull it off. And you flip and you rotate. And you put it off to the side of the flame so it's only getting a little bit of flame. Managing the heat. And let's not forget your basting. In between all that, you're basting as well. It's very hard for me to do a tutorial on 4 brown butter steaks simultaneously and still talk to you because it's a lot of work. If I only had one, I'd only be watching one, but I'm paying attention to all four of these and maintaining the pans on all four. And as you can see, I'm making some mistakes. I'm letting the pan get too hot. I'm pulling it off. So I don't recommend this. This is not the way to do it, but I really wanted to show you guys all the different types of situations you could be in and all the different types of steaks you could do with this method. So I pushed it a little bit. But it's fine. Now I'm getting used to it, and I'm not worried so much because I have a little bit of a rhythm going now. You can feel my flow here. I'm realizing how long this pan has to be on this burner to maintain the heat and how long that one does. And this one's just at the perfect temp because it's such a huge piece of meat, and it's also a very thick bottom pot. There you go. But look at this. This is, this is just, this is a roasting pan. I'm creating an oven in the pan by dropping the heat from all sides. The butter is dripping all over the meat, lubricating the meat, penetrating the meat, and creating an oven-like effect. And at the same time, creating one of the best crusts you'll ever have. And you can feel when the meat's getting there. I mean, these are very rare. They're very big. That filet is going to be done first. It's got about another 3 or 4 minutes. When the meat's cooked, it stiffens up. You can feel it stiffening. And if you keep squeezing it while it's cooking, you will be right alongside the process of it going from rare to even well done. Well done is going to be very stiff. Medium rare is going to be just a little bit loose. You felt raw from the beginning. You got to feel it from the beginning and continue to keep feeling it throughout the process. And that's how you learn exactly when it's ready. There's no other way. There's no point to stick thermometers in here, guys. You can do it by touch and feel. You can learn it. You can definitely feel the rawness. You can feel it when it's raw. You press it and it stays in, just like a piece of raw meat. When a piece of meat is cooked, you press it and it comes back out. As it starts to come back out more and more, you know it's cooked more and more. And you're going to make a mistake a few times, but you'll eventually get it, and you'll know what medium rare feels like, and you'll know what well done feels like, and you'll know what medium feels like. You will. You'll get it. Every cook gets it, and it doesn't take that many steaks. You might screw up 2 or 3 steaks. Big deal. You're learning how to literally cook without thermometers. Isn't it worth it? So I decided this is where I'm going to make the sauce. So I'm going to start putting some whole cloves of garlic in here. Right into the fat. And I'm going to do some here as well. Got a little too much over here, not enough over here. I'm going to move them over. And I'm going to let them roast right in the husk. Now, I already got quite a bit of color on this side. Now I'm going to flip it again and get this filet side. You can see I got beautiful color on that. Look. And now I'm going to get that filet side just a little bit, because the filet we want to be really careful not to overcook it. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of color like that, right on the flame, and then flip it over here. And now we got to get really going with the basting over here. I'm also going to get a little bit more butter in here. So I need a lot of basting now. I got to baste all this. Garlic is also going to soak up quite a bit of fat. Same story over here. Here we go. Boom. Basting and basting. The garlic cloves as well now are going to start flavoring the butter. And what's going to happen? The crust is going to get this roasted garlic flavor to it. And we're going to make a sauce in these pans. We're going to take most of the butter out, but we're going to leave some of the butter in, because some of the butter has a ton of flavor. We don't need a lot of it though, because it's going to be a very highly concentrated flavor of meat. And we're going to add our sugo. Bam, we just made it. Proto Sugo method is in our YouTube channel. Check it out. I just made this sugo. It's brand new sugo. It's labeled. It came out of the freezer. It's frozen. I'm going to sit it in a water bath and just put it back here by the fire and start warming it up so I can get some of it out. So I'm going to put it maybe on this back burner over here. It's crazy. Basting also cools down the pan. So if your pan is getting too hot, another way to cool the pan down is just to get it off the flame and baste, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm getting all the heat that's in the butter to transfer into the meat. You're constantly transferring heat with this method, and that's one of the great things about it is it teaches you how to transfer heat from one thing to another. And now I'm just going to be basting. Look, I'm basting with the garlic right on top of the meat. Just like that. Boom. This has already come up to a boil over here, and my sugo's already starting to melt. I'm getting prepared to make the sauce now. And here we go. Look at, see how the butter's dark brown but not black? You're okay as long as you maintain that. Okay? Brown but not dark black. Only dark black if you're cooking like a skirt steak, something that needs to be cooked very quickly. Brown butter method, totally adaptable to all sizes of meat. Now we're going to get this filet out and let it rest. And I'm not going to waste the butter. I'm going to put the butter right in here. Boom. This New York strip's getting there too. I can feel it. It's starting to firm up. You see, it's not feeling totally raw anymore. It's definitely rare, but it still needs more time. Let's check. Let's do a flip on this. Boom. Flip it over. Look at that color. Look at that crust. Insane. And now with the roasted garlic, with the whole cloves of garlic roasting in it, slowly bleeding flavor into the butter. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at this. And it's going to be much easier to maintain this pan. I've been over on this pan quite a bit, but you see, I still didn't screw anything up, really. I mean, it's just that the butter's very dark. I won't use this butter for the sauce. I'm going to stick with plenty of butter here. But if you made this mistake, you wouldn't, you can still make the sauce in here. You just can't use a lot of the butter. This is amazing. Look at this. Look at this hunk of meat. This is the same fat as the meat. Grass-fed meat, grass-fed fat. That's the way to go. Time to flip this fucker again too, man. Wow. Look at that. Holy shit. And now you can see my sugo, I got plenty out here. It's coming up. There's plenty of heat left in this thing to melt, to continue to keep melting that sugo, so when I need it, it's ready to go. And back to the basting. Back to the basting. This is the most fun you're ever gonna have. Look at this shit. I mean, come on, are you kidding me? You can smell it. I mean, the smell is absolutely mind-blowing, and there's no smoke in the house. No smoke in the house whatsoever. You live in New York City, you have an apartment, this method, if you manage the heat properly, and as soon as you see the butter start to smoke, you take it off the heat, you will not set off your fire alarm. And you'll still make the most incredible crust. Better than any restaurant. This takes time and this takes energy, but it's worth it. Okay? It's hard to do this method in a restaurant because we have to dedicate a pan, we have to dedicate a burner to basting for all this time on these big cuts of meat. So what we end up doing is we end up setting the oven so it can literally be almost the same temperature as the burner. And we're not coordinating anything here, we're just cooking. I like to just, as the steaks are ready, put them on the cutting board, dress them up right here on the cutting board. I'm gonna get my friend Aurelio's extra virgin from Luca. This shit is ridiculous. And just drench it. Anoint the fuck. Anoint the living fuck. So here we go. I'm gonna get some knives and forks. And we're gonna eat it right the fuck here. Here we go. Because we're animals. Design the motherfucker right here. Wow, what a crust. The meat's the star of the show. That's what it should be, the star of the show. Okay, here comes the New York strip. And over here, we're there. I'm gonna let this just rest. But I wanna make the sauce in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this into this one, let it sit. We're gonna start talking about sauce over here. You can see all those baked on drippings, right? But I don't need all that fat. I'm gonna take a little bit of the fat out, but leave most of it in. Because I want to make a lot of sauce. And I have my sugo here, but I want to get a little bit of wine in there too. I want to do a little bit of a wine reduction. This is an Amarone that I opened a long time ago. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to reduce it all the way down. See how it's getting syrupy? Okay, it's getting syrupy. That's the sugar in the Amarone. Okay, and the wine itself is starting to thicken a little bit. Here we go. We're going to start adding some sugo in. So this is our brodo reduced by 95%. I'm going to go on a high flame again because we want to reduce it down. So what does the sugo do for us? Well, it's already reduced. If we had to reduce the brodo now, it would take us way too long. That's the whole point of a sugo, is we're creating a sauce quickly from the same ingredients, the same base of that brodo, highly concentrated. That's what a great sauce is. I'm gonna throw some whole sage leaves in here as well. Steep them in. You also could have put the sage leaves into the butter at the end of the process. Oh my God. Amazing. I'm gonna pull out the sage, all the flavor's been infused, and bam, boom, zing. The sauce is ready. It's got plenty of salt. It's got beautiful wine flavor. And now we're gonna cut the meat and sauce it right on the table here. We're just gonna come in like animals and just eat it right off the table. It's amazing. Beautiful. So here we go. Oh my God, this fat is insane. Holy shit. So let's take a look at what this T-bone looks like. And here we go, we're gonna pull off the filet. Did pretty good on that. Looks pretty fucking awesome. Now we're gonna pull off the New York strip, because that's what this is. This is the New York strip and a filet mignon together. Look how beautiful that is. We got so much meat here, it's obscene. Let's cut some of this up now, and you can see the sides closer to the outside, cooked a little more, obviously, and what's closer in here is nice and rare, so you get a nice multitude of temperatures here. I let this rest a long time, and now I'm going to hit it with some beautiful sugo that we just made, and we're going to bathe in it, literally. Look at this crust. Look at this crust. The best crust is on this one. Filet also went a little bit over, but it's still absolutely delicious and soft. I mean, this is still eating so well. God, but let's sauce the meat right on the table. Oh my God. Sage, Amarone, and roasted garlic. This filet can really use sauce, so I'm gonna put a lot on that. Look at this. Carrot. Perfect balance of rare inside, medium, and a beautiful char. Makes a better bite. A more interesting bite, more textures. Look. Sugo, we just made sugo. We also want to get some fat involved here. Every bite, trying to get some fat, trying to get some crust, trying to get some medium, trying to get some well done. Wow. Oh my God. Look at me, I'm a mess. Worth it. That butter is just amazing, right? I mean, it's all about that butter. This whole meal is about that butter. So yeah, you know, I mean, come on here. Look at this ribeye here. I mean, I love this piece here, especially because look at all that crust on it, you see? I know that this is well done, but look, it's delicious when you eat it with a piece of rare meat. Boom. Amazing. Wow. Multiple textures. And of course, always with greens. You got to get greens in your mouth at the same time. Help the bite, help the chew. Also for health, digestion. Look at this. This is medium meat, but yet delicious and moist. All right, sit down. Good boy. Sit down. Oh, she's already sitting. Good girl.